History often remembers the Ottoman Empire through the clash of armies, the rise and fall of sultans, and the sweep of territories across 3 continents. Yet beyond the banners and battles, life in the Ottoman world unfolded in quieter rhythms. It was in the hush of dawn prayers drifting from slender minarets. It was in the murmur of markets where merchants bargained over silks and spices. It was in the silence of courtyards where fountains trickled softly, and in the calm of caravanserai where travelers rested after long journeys. This series will not tell the Ottoman story as thunder of conquest, but as whisper of life. We will move slowly like a traveler walking shaded streets of Istanbul at dusk, or like a pilgrim pausing to drink water at a fountain before resuming his way. We will visit mosques and gardens, markets and kitchens, workshops and libraries. We will linger not on loud proclamations, but on soft voices, the call of muezzins, the rustle of fabrics, the scratch of pens, the laughter of children. Tonight begins our journey into the Ottoman world. May its echoes be gentle, its stories calming, and its pace slow enough to ease the mind toward rest. Among the arts of the Ottoman world, few were held in such reverence as calligraphy. It was more than writing, more than ornament. It was devotion given shape, silence given line, eternity captured in ink. Calligraphy was not thunder of brushstroke, nor roar of proclamation. It was whisper of pen, slow curve of letters, patient flow of hand. In every mosque and every book, on every tile and scroll, calligraphy breathes softly, speaking not only words but presence. The sacred art for the Ottomans, calligraphy was deeply sacred. The Quran's words demanded beauty, reverence, patience. Letters carried more than meaning, they carried faith. To write was to pray, to copy was to worship, to perfect a curve was to echo eternity. Masters taught students not only technique but humility. Patience, silenced up. Picture Istanbul scriptorium. Lamps glow, pens scratch upon paper. A teacher bends over pupil's work. The jesting angle of reed pen. The pupil breathes slowly, ink flowing in measured line. Arm them, silence reigns, broken only by pen's whisper. Tools of the art. Calligraphers used reed pens, cut with care, shaped to hold ink in precise flow. Ink made from soot and gum, dark and enduring, paper polished smooth, ready to receive. Each tool prepared patiently, lovingly, for whisper of line. Imagine master sharpening pen, knife glints, reed shaved, tip formed. He dips in ink, tests stroke. Upon scrap, line flows steady, his eyes calm. Tools not loud, they hum with readiness. Styles of script. Ottoman calligraphy embraced many scripts. Elegant fulith for mosque walls, compact nask for Qurans, flowing talit for poetry, dignified, kufik for inscriptions. Each style whispered differently, some tall and curved, others small and neat, some flowing like river, others steady like stone. Together, they formed silent chorus. Picture mosque dome. Lines of fulith curve across blue tiles, words glowing gold. Letters stretch like vines, rising with dome. Worshipper looks upward, lips move, silence deepens. Script becomes prayer itself. Calligraphy in mosques and palaces must glow with calligraphy. Verses circled domes, adorned walls, framed mihrabs. Palaces to hold panels, scrolls. Documents signed with sultans, tucker imperial calligraphic. Emblem, part name, part symbol, entirely unique, each stroke careful. Each curve steady. Imagine top copy chamber. A scribe prepares tukra for decree. His hand moves with confidence, reed pen gliding. Curve meets curve, emblem complete. Imperial presence in whisper of ink. Calligraphy in books, manuscripts filled with calligraphy. Qurans, poetry, chronicles. Margins illuminated with flowers, gold leaf vines. Each page patient, each letter gift. Books not mass, but treasure. They carried not only words but soul of scribe. Picture Quran manuscript. Pages cream, letters black, headings red, borders gold. Reader turns slowly, breath steady. Words glow, silence deepens. Ink whispers eternity. Masters and students, calligraphs trained for years, Students copied letters endlessly, repeating curves until perfect. Masters corrected gently, demanding patience. Progress slow, mastery measured not in months, but decades. Calligraphy was not craft of haste, but art of waiting. Imagine Bursa workshop. Student sits hunched, copying letter a leaf again and again. Master watches, nods slowly. Student sighs, tries again. Hours pass, silence steady. At day's end, page filled with whispers of ink. Calligraphy in daily life. Calligraphy appeared beyond mosques, and books on fountains, tombstones, textiles, ceramics. A gravestone bore verse. A bowl a blessing, a robe a prayer, words surrounded. Daily life, gently reminding of presence of faith, beauty, patience. Picture fountain in Eddern. Water trickles, inscription above reads in flowing script. Drink and remember the giver. Passively pauses, reads, smiles softly. Water flows, ink endures. Poetry and calligraphy carried poetry too. Verses of love, of longing, of beauty inscribed upon panels, scrolls, fans. Words curved into flowers, birds, forms. Poetry already whisper, calligraphy made whisper visible. Imagine scroll in Damascus. Verse of longing flows in Talik script. Letters like vines, reader. Traces line with finger, silence deepens. Poetry breathes in ink. Night in the scriptorium at night. Scribes worked by candlelight. Flame flickered, ink glistened, pens whispered. Outside, cities slept. Inside, letters formed steadily. Scribes bowed over desks, hands steady despite hours. Their silence carried through night, their lines into eternity. Picture Istanbul room at midnight, candle near window, scribe bends, pen scratches. Outside, Bosphorus dark, gulls asleep. Inside, ink flows, silence eternal. Legacy of ink. Ottoman world left mosques, palaces, markets, but also calligraphy. Qurans preserved, panels hung, inscriptions glowing today. Travelers still look upward, reading verses across domes, marveling at patience of pen. Calligraphy endures, whispering still. Ottoman calligraphy was not thunder. It was whisper of reed pen, murmur of ink, sigh of letters, and in those whispers lay devotion of empire. Asterisk. The Ottoman world moved not in sudden bursts, but in rhythms. Days unfolded with prayer calls, nights with lanterns, seasons with festivals. Yet behind these larger patterns, time itself was measured gently by water clocks, sundial sand, and later, by ticking gears. Time in the empire was not thunder of bells nor roar of machines. It was whisper of shadow, drip of water, swing of pendulum. The Ottomans lived by time's calm breath, its steady murmur crossed centuries. Time and daily rhythm. Life followed prayer calls 5 times each day, mosques filled with voices. Between calls, people worked, traded, studied, rested. The suns, arc-guided markets, shadows marked hours. Time not demanded, but suggested, unfolding slowly. Picture Istanbul morning. Muezzin's voice drifts from minaret. City stirs. Merchants open stalls. Children hurry to mekteb. Fishermen cast nets. Afternoon arrives with another call. Shadows lengthen. Workers pause for prayer. Evening falls. Lamps lit, silence deepens. Time moves gently, like tide. Sundials and shadow sundials marked hours in courtyards, mosques, gardens. A metal rod cast. Shadow moving slowly across stone lines. People paused, glanced, measured day. No ticking, no ringing, just whisper of shadow stretching. Sundials link time to sun, sky, eternity. Imagine courtyard in Bursa. Stone sundial stands, shadow inching. A man pauses, reads hour, adjusts plan. Children chase pigeons nearby. Fountain trickles. Time measured in silence, shadow whispering across stone. Water clocks in earlier centuries. Water clocks measured time. Drops fell steadily into bowls. Floats rose slowly. Marks noted in mosques. Keepers watched, ensuring prayers aligned. Sound was not clang but drip steady soft, eternal. Picture Damascus mosque. In small chamber, water drips into vessel. Keeper adjusts, records hour. Outside, worshippers gather. Imam prepares. Clock whispers through water, time flows like river. Sand and patience horses, filled with sand, measured smaller spans. Sand flowed from chamber to chamber, each grain whisper of passing. Physicians used them for remedies, judges for hearings, teachers for lessons. When sand ended, glass turned, cycle renewed. Time became patience itself. Imagine scholars study. Our glass stands on desk, sand falling slowly. Scholar writes, pen scratching. He glances, nods, continues. Sand ends, glass turned, silence steady. Time moves, but without haste. Mechanical clocks later centuries brought mechanical clocks. Towers rose in cities, gears turned, bells struck. Yet even these spoke gently, their ticking soft, their chimes measured. Clock towers became landmarks, guiding travelers, marking prayers. Time gained steady pulse, yet still calm. Picture Sarajevo clock tower, gears hidden within. Hands move slowly. Bell strikes hour, sound drifts across valley, echoing softly. Men glance upward, continue tasks. City breathes in rhythm of clock, no rush, only presence. Palaces and astronomy in palaces. Astronomers studied stars, measured time with instruments. Aligned calendars, time linked with sky, eternity mirrored in movement of planets. Observatories charted heavens, blending science and devotion. Clocks stood in halls, gifted by envoys. Admired as wonders. Imagine top copy chamber. Astronomer gazes at astrolabe, marking positions. Clock ticks nearby, gears turning outside. Bosphorus flows, eternal and calm. Time whispered by stars, by clock, by sea. Time and poetry. Poets wrote of time as river, as shadow, as bird. They saw its patience, its silence. They spoke of fleeting youth, enduring faith, eternal beyond. Verses reminded readers to live gently, to measure life not in noise but in kindness. Prayer, reflection. A couplet might read, the shadow moves, the water falls. Yet silence keeps the truest calls. No clock nor bell need strike to say that time has carried night to day. Night and silence seek night. Time deepened. Sundials slept, water clocks rested, towers glowed faintly. Yet time continued, stars moved, moons waxed and waned. Hours passed, in silence people slept, dreams measured. Night, only watchmen marked hours, their steps slow, their calls soft. Picture Eddern Street at midnight, watchman walks, lantern swinging, voice low, the night is safe. Windows dark, city silent, above. Stars turn, time breathes gently unseen. Steady. Legacy of Ottoman time today. Clock towers still stand, sundials still rest in courtyards. Manuscripts still record water clocks. Bosphorus still glimmers, marking dawn in dust. Time remains whisper, eternal companion. Machines tick louder now, but silence of shadow, water, sand endures. Ottoman time was not thunder. It was whisper of shadow, drip of water, sigh of sand, tick of gears. And in those whispers lay patience of empire. The Ottoman world was vast, stretching across continents, binding peoples, languages, and traditions beneath its domes and skies. Yet when we step back from its monuments and stories, what remains strongest is not the roar of conquest, nor the clamor of armies, nor the thunder of decrees. What endures is the whisper, the soft murmur of markets, the slow pluck of lute strings, the rustle of tulip petals in gardens, the sigh of water through fountains, the quiet prayers rising from courtyards. The empire's true voice was not storm, but breeze, not shout but murmur, not command but patience. The stillness beneath grandeur recall Topkapi's domes and minarets, but what lingers is the hush of its courtyards. Fountains whispering under cypress shade. We think of caravanserai filled with traders, but memory holds the murmurs of prayers said at dawn. Camels stirring slowly, we imagine bustling bazaars. Yet the quietest image is merchants sipping tea, waiting for a customer in silence. Grandeur existed, but it was softened by calm. Beneath stone and silk, empire breathed in stillness. Whispers in daily life, daily rhythms carried the empire more than battles. women embroidering tulip patterns, men polishing copper bowls, children chasing shadows in gardens. These carried continuity. A mother soothing child with lullaby, a fisherman casting net at dawn, a storyteller murmuring tale in lantern light. These voices were not loud, but they endured. They shaped memory as much as sultans. Nvizars. An empire of threads. The Ottoman world was woven from threads of patience, fabrics from Bursa, silks from Cairo, wool from Anatolia, all stitched together. Roads stretched across Balkans and deserts, bridges arched over rivers. Ships glided through Bosphorus, each piece connected, slowly, steadily, like carpet woven knot by knot. Empire wove itself through patience. Its strength lay not in haste, but in endurance. The presence of water flowed at heart of empire. Bosphorus shimmering, Nile nourishing, Danube murmuring, fountains trickling in courtyards. Hammams steamed, aqueducts carried streams, gardens bloomed with pools, water whispered continuity. Kingdoms rose and fell, but rivers kept flowing. For Ottomans, water was memory, a quiet companion. Its sound filled silence more than speeches. Faith as whisper. Mosques rose with domes, minarets pierced sky, yet prayer within was quiet. Quranic verses written in calligraphy, whispered by pens. Imams spoke with calm voices. Families prayed softly at home. Faith was not only spectacle of mosques, it was murmur of recitations, sigh of believer at night, quiet of candle in lodge. Spirituality endured in whispers, not in noise. The murmur of trade markets hummed steadily. Spices glowed in baskets, silks folded in stalls, copper shone on shelves. Yet trade was not frenzy, it was measured exchange. Coins placed softly, greetings whispered, tea shared. Markets were conversations, not storms. They thrived in continuity, in patience, in murmur. Music, poetry, and silence. Flutes, knees, drums, and voices filled empire with music. But music did not overwhelm, it floated. Notes lingered, fading slowly into night. Poets recited verses, listeners leaned forward, silence deeper than sound. Songs and poems lived longer than speeches, because they entered hearts quietly. Empire's memory carries these whispers more than trumpets of battle. Cemeteries and eternity. Cypress trees whispered above stones, inscriptions curved in calligraphy. Cemeteries stood beside streets, teaching softly, all passes, only kindness remains. In their silence, empire learned humility. Stones endured longer than voices, trees longer than stones, silence longer than all. The whisper beyond borders. Even as empire's borders shifted, even as palaces changed, whispers remained. Tulip festivals in Istanbul, calligraphy panels in mosques, Bosphorus ferries crossing at dawn, hammams steaming at dusk. These endure beyond empire itself. Today, travelers still sip coffee in bazaars, still walk beneath domes, still hear fountains trickle. The whisper continues, the lesson of the whisper perhaps. This is the legacy of the Ottoman world, that strength is not only in thunder but in murmur, that empires may rule with armies, but endure in whispers of daily life. Markets, gardens, prayers, music, rivers, threads, lamps. These carried memory. They did not fade because they were soft. Soft things endure. Closing reflection. So now, as we end this quiet journey, we hear again the empire's voice, not command of sultan, not roar of armies, but whisper of daily life. Coffee poured into small cups, lute string plucked at dusk. Cypress swaying in breeze, fountain sighing in courtyard. The Ottoman world still speaks, but softly. It tells us life moves not in thunder, but in whispers, and in those whispers there is peace. Asterisk. Istanbul, once Constantinople, was the beating heart of the Ottoman world. Yet even here, amid palaces and mosques, the spirit of the city was not only grandeur, but calm. It was a place where East met West, where caravans from Asia and ships from Europe crossed paths, where languages mingled and cultures brushed like fabrics in a market stall. But above all, it was a city that breathed in silence and sound, in prayer and trade, in life's steady rhythms. At dawn, The city stirred not with shouts, but with a call. The muezzin's voice rose from the minarets, long and steady, drifting over domes and rooftops, from the great mosque of Sultan Ahmed to the neighborhood masjids tucked between houses. The call layered upon itself, soft waves of devotion rolling across hills and valleys. The Bosphorus shimmered pale, gulls circled silently, fishermen pushed small boats into water. The first light touched the stones of Hagia Sophia, now a mosque under Ottoman care. Its dome glowing with quiet majesty. In narrow streets, vendors, open stalls, bread baked in ovens, its scent filling alleys. Coffee, still new to the city, was brewed slowly, its aroma drifting through doorways. Merchants laid out fabrics, velvets from Bursa, silks from Persia, cotton from Egypt, spices poured into bowls, saffron, cinnamon, cloves, pepper, each set weaving into air like notes of music. Voices rose, but gently, bargaining in murmurs. Laughter soft, greetings polite. It was not roar of market, but hum, steady and soothing, like heartbeat of city. Caravansers held travelers who woke to continue journeys. Camels rested in courtyards, their bells faint. Horses drank from fountains. Merchants gathered around low tables, sipping warm drinks, whispering news from faraway lands. Persia's poets, Venice's traders, Cairo's scholars, maps spread, letters read. Yet always with patience, never with haste, within top-copied palace. Life moved in slow ceremony, courtyards shaded by cypress trees, fountains trickling, eunuchs moving with quiet steps. In chambers, scribes copied documents, their quills scratching steadily. In kitchens, great cauldrons simmered with rice and lamb, their steam rising gently. The Sultan's presence was distant, like the Bosphorus itself, vast, steady, serene. Power here was not loud, it was measured, patient, ritualized. Mosques glowed with light, candles flickered in chandeliers of iron, their flames swaying gently as worshippers entered, removed shoes, knelt upon carpets. The air carried scent of beeswax and incense. Imams recited verses, voices low, steady, melodic. To step into a mosque in Istanbul was to step into silence, where sound itself became whisper of eternity. Outside, gardens bloomed, tulips, beloved of the Ottomans, opened petals, their colors calm yet radiant. Fountains sang quietly, their water cool in stone basins. Children played in shade, their laughter mingling with birdsong. Women gathered at wells, filling jars, speaking softly. Men sat beneath trees, sipping tea, telling stories in low tones. The city lived, but lived gently, with rhythm of water and prayer, of trade and rest. As evening fell, the city slowed again. The sun dipped behind hills, domes glowed gold. Minarets cast long shadows. The call to prayer rose once more. Voices drifting like lullaby across waters. Boats returned to harbor, sails folding, oars resting. Lamps were lit in streets, their glow soft and steady. Families gathered at tables, bread broken, soup shared, thanks whispered. The city rested, ready to begin again with dawn's soft call. Istanbul, in the Renaissance world, was not merely capital of empire, it was heart of quiet splendor. Its greatness was not only in walls and domes, but in whispers of daily life, prayers rising, markets murmuring, waters flowing. To walk its streets was to feel not thunder of empire, but whisper of eternity. The Ottoman world was vast, stretching from the deserts of Arabia to the mountains of the Balkans, from the Nile to the Danube, from the Black Sea to the Red. Yet its heartbeats could often be felt most gently in its bazaars. These were not only places of trade, but of meeting, of listening, of sharing. Their rhythm was not thunderous clash, but quiet murmur, the steady hum of life woven together in markets where fabrics brushed. Coins clinked, voices whispered. The architecture of markets Ottoman. Bazaars were built not for noise, but for endurance and comfort. High arched ceilings shielded crowds from heat of summer and rain of winter. Domed halls caught light that filtered down in soft peans, illuminating stalls and goods. Stone floors echoed softly with footsteps, worn smooth by centuries of passage. Courtyards opened into fountains where travelers paused washing hands, sipping water. The Grand Bazaar of Istanbul, Kapla Kark, was among the greatest. Its corridors twisted like streams, each turn revealing new colors, new scents, new whispers. Yet even in its immensity, there was calm. Merchants did not shout their wares, but beckoned gently. Buyers did not rush but lingered, touching fabrics, weighing spices, listening to quiet promises. The bazaar was not chaos. It was steady tide of humanity, flowing softly, endlessly. Fabrics and silks. One of the most soothing sights in bazaars was fabric folds of silk shimmering like water, velvet deep as night, cotton white as cloud. From Bursakane rich silks, woven with gold thread, glowing under lamplight. From Persia came patterned carpets, each knot tied patiently, each design flowing like river of color. From Anatolia came woolen cloth, soft and steady, warm for winter journeys. Picture a stall where bolts of fabric rise like walls of color. A merchant unrolls deep blue velvet, its surface smooth beneath hand. Another lifts silk, light as breath, shimmering with faint glow. Women reach to touch, their fingers lingering, their voices soft. No rush, no clamor, just fabric speaking its own language of patience and craft. Spices and scents. If fabrics gave sight, spices gave scent. Bazaars carried worlds in small bowls. Cinnamon from Ceylon, pepper from India, saffron from Anatolia, cloves from Zanzibar. Each spice a whisper of distant place, each aroma bridged between lands. A spice seller leans over his stall, mixing powders, weighing carefully. Customers lean close, inhaling, eyes closing briefly at richness. The air itself seems to hum with warm, earthy cumin, sharp pepper, sweet cinnamon. To walk through Spice Market was to travel without moving, each step carrying you across continents. Sounds of the bazaar was filled with sound, yet never deafening. The faint clink of coins in merchants' hands, the creak of wooden carts moving through alleys, the low murmur of bargaining, offers made, counters given, hands clasped in agreement. Children's laughter echoed as they darted between stalls, chasing each other softly. Storytellers sat in corners, their voices weaving tales in slow cadence. Listeners leaning close, musicians strummed lutes, their melodies wandering gently through air. It was chorus of life, not loud but steady, soothing. Food and drink among stalls were also food sellers. Bread fresh from ovens, sesame seeds scattered on crust, dates piled high, figs glistening, nuts in baskets, roasted chestnuts warmed cold. Hands, honey sweets glowed golden in trays. Coffeehouses near bazaars invited men to pause, sip dark brew, discuss quietly. Steam rose from cups, voices blended with smoke. Silence filled between words. Picture a corner of Istanbul bazaar. A coffeehouse with low tables, cushions spread. Men sit, sipping slowly, smoke curling from pipes, chessboards between them. Outside, footsteps echo. Inside, time lingers, patient and calm. Caravan connections. Bazaars were not only local, but global. Caravans from east brought silk and porcelain. Caravans from north brought furs and honey. Ships from Mediterranean brought glass and wine. The bazaar was map in miniature. Each stall a compass point, each merchant a traveler's tale, yet all blended in harmony, not in clash. A caravan arrives at dawn, camels stepping slowly, bells chinning softly. Goods unloaded, merchants greeted with quiet smiles. By midday, spices, fabrics, gems, and letters from faraway lands are spread upon stalls. Trade flows like river, not rushing, but steady. Timeless, the murmur of bargaining was ritual. Slow and patient, a buyer inquires, the merchant replies, price offered, counter given, silence held, smiles exchanged. Sometimes days passed before deal struck. It was not conflict but dialogue, measured and calm. The bazaar's hum was woven of these voices, each transaction a thread in vast tapestry of life. Evening in the bazaar's day closed, lamps were lit, corridors glowed golden, shadows long upon walls. Merchants folded fabrics, covered spices, counted coins slowly. Buyers carried bundles home, their steps steady. Musicians played last melodies, storytellers ended tales. Gates of bazaar closed, silence settled, yet within walls lingered hum of day, echo of life. Legacy of the bazaar. Ottoman bazaars were not only markets, they were hearts of cities. They carried voices of many lands, goods of many worlds, lives of many people. They did not roar like battlefields, nor command like palaces. They whispered, and their whisper endures still, in Istanbul's markets, in scents of spices, in glow of fabrics, in murmur of trade. The bazaar was not thunder, it was whisper, and in its whisper lay the soul of the Ottoman world. The Ottoman world was vast, its cities glittering with domes and bazaars, but its lifeblood flowed along roads that stretched endlessly across mountains, plains, and deserts. Along these roads, weary travelers found shelter in caravanserai, stone fortresses of rest and calm where merchants, pilgrims, scholars, and wanderers paused between journeys. These places were not only walls of stone, they were islands of silence, spaces of safety, whispers of welcome in a world of distance. Roads that never ended. Caravans moved slowly. Camels stepped with steady rhythm, hooves pressing into dust. Horses carried riders, mules bore loads, from dawn until dusk. Processions wound their way along roads that connected empires' far corners. Traders carried silk and spices. Pilgrims carried prayers. Soldiers carried messages. Each step was soft, each journey long, each silence deep. Picture Anatolian plain at sunrise. A caravan stretches across horizon, camels in line, bells chiming faintly. Dust rises, blending with morning light. The road ahead endless, the sky vast. Men walk with staffs, their voices low, songs murmured like lullabies to keep rhythm. Nothing is hurried, all moves with patience. The arrival at caravanserai at dusk. Walls appear thick, square, steady. A caravanserai, its gate tall, its stone glowing with last light. Travelers sigh with relief, entering through archway into courtyard. Inside, calm surrounds, stables to one side, rooms to another, fountain in center. Fires glow in corners, smoke rising gently. Animals are led to stalls. Burdens lifted, waters poured. Merchants stretch backs. Pilgrims wash faces. Children laugh softly as they run free. The caravanserai is not loud. It breathes quietly, holding voices in stone halls, echoing gently beneath arches. Courtyard and quiet rituals in courtyard. Travelers gather. Merchants lay mats and roll goods, compare wares, exchange news. Pilgrims sit together, prayers whispered, beads sliding softly in hands. Storytellers begin tales, their voices low. Listeners leaning close. Cook fires burn, pots simmer with lentils and rice, the air filled with simple warmth. Imagine evening inside caravanserai. A fire crackles faintly, bowls passed, spoons lifted slowly. Outside, night deepens. Inside, silence glows. No grand feast, no thunder of voices, only murmur of travelers, steady rhythm of life. Pause. Stables and animals to rest. Camels kneel, groaning softly, their burdens gone. Horses stamp gently, mules bray faintly. Sheep lie in corners. Attendants move quietly, feeding, brushing, pouring water. The sound is calm, hay rustling, water splashing, bells chiming faintly. The caravanserai is refuge for all, human and beast alike. Hospitality and faith. Hospitality was sacred in Ottoman world. Caravanserai often provided food freely for 3 days: bread, soup, water. Pilgrims on way to Mecca found welcome. Scholars traveling to teach found rest. Merchants carrying empires' lifeblood found safety. Mosques or prayer rooms adjoin walls, their call rising at dawn, echoing gently through stone. Picture dawn in caravanserai. Travelers rise, washing at fountain, voices low in prayer. The muezzin calls from small minaret, his song steady, drifting across courtyard. Light falls upon stone, animals stirred. Loads tied again. Journey resumes. Silence left behind, silence carried forward. Stories shared. Every caravanserai was crossroads of stories. A trader from Aleppo speaks of Damascus. A scholar from Cairo recites verses. A pilgrim from Bosnia shares in. Languages mingle, hands gesture, eyes brighten. Yet all, in calm tones, never in rush. The caravanserai is a library without books, archive of voices carried in whispers. Imagine a corner lit by lantern. A poet recites lines, his companions nodding slowly, words sinking deep. Outside, wind moves across plain. Inside, story remains. Night and silence. As night deepens, caravanserai sleeps. Fires fade, lanterns dim, voices fall quiet. Only sound, wind through arches, water trickling in fountain, distant howl of dog. Travelers lie upon mats, cloaks drawn, dreams carrying them further than roads. Animals shift, bells clink softly. Silence wraps all, patient, steady. The caravanserai, built for protection, becomes cradle of sleep. Its stones hold not only weight of roof, but weight of centuries, of countless footsteps, voices, dreams. Legacy of resting places. Caravansers dotted Ottoman world, each a pause in great journey, each a whisper in vast silence. They did not roar like battles, nor shine like palaces. They simply waited, steady and silent, welcoming those who passed. Their legacy endures in ruins across Anatolia, in memories of travelers, in rhythm of history. The Ottoman world was not only empire of power, it was empire of journeys, of pauses, of silences. Caravanserai were its heartbeats along roads, each a murmur of rest in endless song of travel. The Ottoman world rose upon stone and song, but nowhere did its silence and majesty meet more perfectly than in its mosques. They were not only places of prayer, but spaces of calm, where domes seemed to embrace sky and minarets whispered above. Rooftops, within their walls, daily life slowed, voices softened, time itself seemed to pause. Mosques were the breath of Ottoman cities, their rhythm not thunder's proclamation, but gentle whisper of devotion. Dawn called day in an Ottoman city often began not with noise of trade, but with call of prayer. Before sunrise, muezzins climbed narrow spiral stairs of minarets, their steps echoing softly within stone. From high balconies, they lifted voices, long and steady, drifting across streets, courtyards, rooftops. The call was not shout, but melody, calm notes that carried through morning air, blending with faint bird song, with rustle of leaves, with trickle of fountains. Imagine Istanbul at dawn, Bosphorus pale with first light, gulls circling above. From Sultan Ahmed Mosque voice rises, from Suleimani another answers, from smaller mosques and neighborhoods echoes join. The city stirs slowly as if awakened by lullaby. Merchants open shutters, mothers stir fires, travelers lift packs. All moves gently, guided by sound of devotion. The silent domesto step into mosque was to step into silence. Domes soared high above, their curves vast yet balanced. Light filtered through stained glass, colors soft upon carpets. Chandeliers hung with dozens of lamps, each flame trembling, filling space with golden glow. Air carried faint scent of beeswax and wool. Worshippers moved quietly, removing shoes, placing feet upon soft carpets. Rows formed with patience, shoulders aligned, hands lifted, prayers recited, voices blending in low murmur, rising and falling like tide. Between words, silence lingered deep, steady, embracing. Architecture as calm Ottoman architects, most famously Mimar Sinan, built not only with stone but with harmony. His mosque Suleimani in Istanbul, Selimiye in Edirne were not thunderous monuments, but symphonies of proportion. Every arch, every column, every dome was measured for balance. Courtyards opened with fountains at center, water whispering. Gardens surrounded, shaded by cypress, tulips blooming. The entire space invited. Picture Selimiye Mosque in evening light, its dome vast, its minarets tall, its courtyard glowing in sunset. Children play softly near fountain, elders sit in shade, pages of Quran turn quietly inside. No clamor, only steady presence of beauty. The community within mosques were not only for prayer. They held schools where children learned letters, reciting softly with wooden tablets. They held kitchens feeding poor bread and soup served gently. They held libraries where scholars read by candlelight, their pens scratching steadily. They were hearts of neighborhoods, where people gathered not for noise, but for presence. Imagine a small neighborhood mosque. Children sit in corner repeating verses, their voices soft. Inside room, elderly men sip tea, sharing memories in low tones. Outside, women fill jars at fountains, speaking quietly as they wait. The mosque gathers all, not as fortress, but as embrace. The minarets rose, like slender fingers, pointing skyward. By day they stood still, their shadows long across rooftops. By night they glowed with lanterns, circles of light climbing upward. From them, the call to prayer spread 5 times each day, marking rhythm of life. At dusk, city filled with sound. Again, calls overlapping, blending, weaving like threads of music. Lanterns lit streets, domes shone gold, markets closed, families gathered. The mosque was constant, steady, whispering presence through hours. Festivals and gatherings and Fridays, mosques filled. Crowds walked slowly through streets, carpets spread, wider sermons delivered calmly. On festivals, Eid prayers filled courtyards, children in new clothes, sweets shared. Yet even in celebration, tone remained gentle, joy expressed in smiles, embraces, soft laughter. Picture courtyard of Suleimani on festival morning. Men in lines, women gathered nearby, children running with lanterns. Prayers rise. Then silence follows, deep and calm. Afterwards, families greet one another, voices blending in harmony. Night in the mosque, weeknight mosque held quiet glow. Candles flickered in chandeliers, domes dimly lit. Few worshippers entered, kneeling in silence, their whispers rising with smoke. Outside, city slept, but mosques breathed softly, their domes like guardians of night. Imagine Istanbul skyline under stars, Bosphorus dark, lamps glowing along shores. Minarets rise like silhouettes, their lanterns faint, their silence vast. Within, prayers drift like sighs, steady, eternal, legacy of domes and minarets. Ottoman mosques remain, their stones enduring, their whispers alive. Tourists walk today through Hagia Sophia. Blue Mosque, Suleimani Selamai, they lift eyes to domes, feel stillness, hear faint echoes. These places remind us that beauty does not always shout. Sometimes it stands in silence, carrying whispers across centuries. Mosques were not thunder. They were whispers of stone, echoes of devotion, breaths of eternity. Their domes still rise, their minarets still call, their silence still calms. The Ottoman world was not only domes and bazaars, not only caravan roads and palaces. Its deepest life flowed in homes, quiet courtyards shaded by vines, fountains whispering in stone basins, families gathering for bread and prayer. Here, far from grandeur, the essence of empire was lived most softly. Daily rhythms, steady routines, gentle presences, these gave life its shape. The Ottoman home was both shelter and heart, its silence filled with whispers of family. The shape of homes. Ottoman houses varied across empire, stone in Anatolia, timber in Balkans, mud brick in deserts, but all carried same spirit of inward calm. From outside, walls plain, streets narrow, facades modest, but step inside, and space opened into courtyard. Trees shaded walls, vines climbed trellises, fountains trickled. Rooms faced inward, windows framed gardens, silence held within. Homes were not for display, but for refuge, for family, for peace. Picture a street in Bursa. Houses closed together, wooden balconies leaning, doors plain. A man enters, closes gate, and within lies a different world. Courtyard with pomegranate, tree, fountain bubbling, children playing softly, women preparing bread. Outside, noise of market. Inside, silence of home. Courtyards and fountains. Heart of home was courtyard. Here meals were eaten, children played, elders sat in shade. Fountains gave water, their sound soft and constant, soothing like prayer. Flowers planted, roses, tulips, jasmine filling air with scent. Birds gathered, nesting in trees, chirping gently. Courtyard was stage for life, births, weddings, farewells, evenings of storytelling. At dusk, family gathered around fountain. Father pours water to wash. Mother serves bread. Children dip hands in cool stream. Stars rise. Lanterns glow. Silence fills air. Courtyard becomes world itself, small and vast at once. Rooms and rhythm rooms open to courtyard, simple, layered with carpets, cushions, low tables. Wooden chests held clothes. Shelves carried books. Lamps glowed at night. In winter, mango braziers warmed hands. In summer, windows opened to breezes. Rooms had rhythm. Mothers spinning wool. Fathers writing letters. Children studying. Guests welcome. Imagine interior of Eddern home. Carpets woven with care. Shelves filled with copper pots. Quran placed with reverence. Low cushions circle room. Families seated together. Conversation soft. No grand furniture. No thunder of voices, just rhythm of life, steady and calm. The family within family gave home its spirit. Fathers carried bread from markets, mothers prepared meals, daughters embroidered, sons fetched water. Elders told stories, children listened wide-eyed, laughter gentle, roles steady, duties shared. Love quiet but deep, hospitality sacred. Guests offered bread, water, place to sit. Picture evening in Damascus home. Guests arrive, greeted with smiles, seated on cushions. Coffee poured slowly, sweet pastries offered. Conversation low, stories shared. Pauses long and calm, children peek from corners, giggling softly. Hospitality is not performance, but presence, meals, and togetherness. Food brought family together. Bread placed in center, stews of lentils, rice, lamb, vegetables around. Bowls shared, spoons dipping, voices murmuring prayers. Tea poured, water ladled, fruit sliced. Meals were not rushed, they were lingered over, each bite steady, each word measured. At Ramadan, evenings glowed with iftar. Dates passed first, water sipped, prayers whispered, lanterns lit, neighbors visited, sweets shared. Fasts ended not with thunder, but with whisper of gratitude. Women's spaces and strength. Women gave rhythm to all. They spun, wove, embroidered, prepared, taught children, guided life. Their presence strong, though voices often soft. In courtyards, they gathered, sharing stories, exchanging recipes, stitching together bonds of family. Mothers sang lullabies, daughters learned crafts. Sisters supported. Their strength was not loud, it was steady, silent, enduring. Children at play. Children filled courtyards with light steps. They played with hoops, carved dolls, balls of cloth. They sang rhymes, clapped hands, chased shadows. Their laughter echoed softly against walls, carrying joy through evenings. They learned prayers, copied letters, helped in chores, their innocence woven into fabric of home. Picture courtyard in Aleppo. A boy rolls hoop. Girl plays with doll. Younger child splashes. Fountain. Mother smiles. Father watches quietly. Elders nod with patience. Life steady, joy gentle. Night in the home. Eat night. Silence deepened. Lamps dimmed. Families lay upon cushions. Dreams flowing. Outside, nightingales sang. Fountains trickled. Wind brushed leaves. Courtyard glowed faintly with moonlight. Home became cradle, holding generations in calm. Legacy of Ottoman homes. The Ottoman world left us palaces and mosques, but also countless homes, most now faded, some still standing. Many remembered only in memory. They remind us that empire was not only grandeur, but daily life. Courtyards, fountains, quiet families, these were whispers of history, as enduring as domes or bazaars. The Ottoman home was not thunder. It was whisper of water, rustle of leaves, murmur of family. And in that whisper lay strength of empire. The Ottoman world was full of domes and bazaars, mosques and caravans, but at the center of every home, every inn, every palace, there was always a kitchen. It was not a place of thunder and clamor, but of steady rhythm, the crackle of firewood, the bubbling of pots, the soft clink of copper spoons against bowls. In kitchens, spices spoke their fragrances, bread rose patiently, and families gathered around warmth that was as emotional as it was physical. The hearth was the true heart, glowing gently, whispering calm. The hearth as center. Ottoman kitchens were simple for poor, vast for wealthy, but all carried the same essence, a fire that glowed steadily. For peasants, this meant a clay hearth, wood stacked nearby, iron pot hanging above flame. For merchants and nobles, kitchens expanded into large stone rooms, cauldrons big enough to feed dozens, cooks moving quietly between ovens and counters. In Topkapi Palace, kitchens lined entire courtyards, their chimneys rising like towers, smoke drifting slowly into air. Yet whether humble or grand, hearth was constant. It gave warmth. It gave sustenance. It gave gathering place. The fire whispered through every home, its glow tying day to day, meal to meal. The sound of cooking. Kitchen sang softly. Wood crackled, coals hissed, pots bubbled. Dough was kneaded, hands pressing rhythmically against boards. Knives sliced vegetables with steady sound, mortars ground spices with low thuds. Cups clinked, lids lifted, water poured. It was symphony of whispers, each sound blending into another, filling space with comfort. Imagine a kitchen in Damascus. A mother stirs lentil stew, her spoon circling slowly. Beside her, daughter rolls dough, flattening it for bread. Outside, father chops wood. Son brings jug of water. The fire glows, shadows flicker, silence breathes. Nothing rushed, nothing loud, just steady rhythm of life. Ingredients and spice. Ottoman kitchen was treasury of flavors. Yet even here, they arrived in whispers. Lentils, rice, chickpeas formed foundation. Lamb, chicken, and fish added richness. When available, yogurt gave tang, olive oil gave depth, honey gave sweetness. Herbs and spices gave soul, mint cooling, cinnamon warming, saffron glowing, pepper sharp. Bowls of spice set on shelves, their colors bright, but their presence calm. To lift lid of jar was to release world. Earth of cumin, forest of cloves, gold of turmeric. Kitchens were crossroads of empire, their ingredients carrying echoes from Arabia, Persia, Balkans, Anatolia, Africa. Each meal was map, each flavor a whisper of journey. Bread is daily gift. Bread was sacred. Each morning dough was prepared, kneaded patiently, baked upon stones or in ovens. Flatbread simple, ring-shaped cement sprinkled with sesame, soft loaves, rising golden. To tear bread was to share life, to place it upon table was to bless meal. Families waited as bread baked, its scent drifting through rooms, filling hearts with comfort. Picture evening in Anatolian home. Bread lifted from oven, crust crisp, steam rising. Children wait eagerly, father breaks loaf, mother serves soup. Silence falls as first bites taken, gratitude whispered. Bread is not just food, it is warmth, rhythm. Prayer. Palace kitchens in Topkapi Palace. Kitchens fed thousands, sultans, concubines, janissaries, servants. Yet even here tone was not of thunder, but of order. Great cauldrons simmered, hooks moved with quiet discipline. Recipes guarded like treasures, dishes layered with subtlety. Rice pilafs jeweled with nuts and raisins, meat stewed with apricots, sherbets chilled with snow from mountains. Flavors refined, but rhythm patient. Fires glowed, knives moved, hands worked steadily. Hospitality extended beyond family. They fed guests, neighbors, travelers. Soup always ready for visitor, coffee prepared for friend, sweets offered for feast. Hospitality sacred, food shared without question. Kitchens whispered welcome, their warmth extending beyond walls. Imagine evening in Aleppo caravanserai. Cooks prepare lentil soup, bowls ladled for weary travelers. Merchants sip, pilgrims smile, silence of road broken with warmth of meal. No words needed, just presence of food, gift of hearth. Feasts and festivals and special days, kitchens glowed brighter. Ramadan evenings filled with dates, sweets, savory stews. Weddings brought trays of baklava, rice pilafs rich with saffron, roasted meats. Festivals filled streets with roasted chestnuts, sesame sweets, sherbets in glass cups. Yet even in celebration, kitchens sang softly. Pans hissed, spoons stirred, laughter drifted, joy expressed in patience, in sharing. Night and silence each night. Kitchens grew still, fires dimmed, embers glowed faintly, pots washed, knives cleaned, bread covered. Only scent remained, faint spice, soft smoke, lingering sweetness of honey. Families slept, but kitchen kept watch, its silence deep, its warmth remembered. Legacy of Ottoman kitchens. Kitchens did not build domes, nor shape empires, yet they sustained them. Without bread, without soup, without hearth, no palace nor mosque could endure. Ottoman kitchens whispered across centuries, their warmth alive in recipes still cooked, in spices still sold, in bread still broken. The kitchen was not thunder. It was whisper of fire, murmur of pot, sigh of bread. And in that whisper lay the strength of life itself. The Ottoman world is often remembered through its grand mosques, its bazaars, its caravan roads. Yet another side of empire bloomed quietly in gardens, walled sanctuaries where fountains trickled. Tulips swayed in breezes, cypress trees stretched upward, and silence reigned. These gardens were not made for thunder of spectacle, but for whispers of peace. They were places to rest, to reflect, to breathe slowly. The Ottomans saw in gardens a vision of paradise on earth, a soft echo of eternal calm, the spirit of Gardensen. The Islamic tradition. Gardens carried deep meaning. They mirrored paradise described in scripture, shaded, flowing with water, blooming with flowers. To create a garden was to invite heaven's tranquility into daily life. For the Ottomans, gardens surrounded mosques, palaces, caravanserai, and homes. They gave balance to stone and wood, softening cities with green, soothing hearts with silence. Picture top-copied palace gardens, pots shaded by cypress, fountains shimmering, tulips glowing in rows. Courtyards alive with color, yet quiet with calm. Sultans strolled slowly, scholars read beneath trees, children played softly by fountains. The garden was refuge, its silence stronger than walls. Water and fountains at the heart of Ottoman gardens was water. Fountains bubbled, streams flowed, pools reflected sky. Water cooled summer air. Its sound steady, gentle. To sit beside fountain was to hear whisper of time itself unceasing, calm, eternal. Imagine a small courtyard in Damascus. A stone fountain trickles, drops echoing. A man sits nearby, rosary in hand, eyes closed, mind still. Round him roses bloom, birds flutter, air fragrant. The fountain speaks softly, its language universal, peace, patience, presence. Flowers and tulips. No flower spoke more softly of Ottoman gardens than tulip, simple yet elegant. Tulip became beloved symbol of empire. Its petals, slender and balanced, were seen as mirrors of perfection. Tulips lined palace gardens, filled pots in courtyards, bloomed in fields. Their colors varied: red, white, yellow, violet, each carrying whisper of beauty. Picture tulip festival in Istanbul. Rows upon rows of blooms swaying in breeze, their colors glowing beneath spring sun. Families stroll slowly, children pause to touch petals, poets write verses inspired. No clamor, only soft joy. Quiet awe. Alongside tulips bloomed roses, jasmine, carnations, violets. Their scents blended with air, their presence gentle. Gardens were not for excess, but for harmony. Each plant chosen for balance, each color for calm. Trees and shady cypress trees rose tall, their silhouettes come against sky. Plane trees spread wide, shading benches, fountains, pots. Fruit trees gave nourishment: pomegranates, figs, apricots. Their branches bent with gifts, their leaves rustled in breezes. Beneath them, families sat in summer, sharing bread, sipping sherbet, speaking softly. Imagine evening beneath pomegranate tree. Lanterns glow, fruits sliced, juice bright. Children laugh gently, elders tell stories, breeze cools. The tree becomes guardian of calm, its shade a whisper of paradise. Gardens of palaces and mosques. Street gardens surrounded mosques and palaces. At Suleimani Mosque, courtyards filled with cypress and roses, fountains bubbling for worshippers. At Topkapi Palace, sultans walked among tulips, fountains glimmering beside pavilions, parrots and peacocks adding color. These spaces were not thunder of power, but quiet display of harmony. They reminded rulers of humility, of paradise, of patience. Private courtyards and homes, small gardens offered same peace. Families planted herbs, flowers, fruit trees, children played, mothers embroidered, fathers sipped tea. Fountains small, but sound steady, tulips few, but beauty enough. These gardens carried whispers of paradise into daily life, softening work, soothing sorrow. Poetry and reflection. Ottoman poets praised gardens often. They saw tulip as symbol of love, rose as symbol of beauty, fountain as symbol of eternity. Verses recited in courtyards, written in letters, inscribed upon walls. Scholars sat beneath trees reading, mystics meditated by streams, lovers exchanged glances among flowers. Gardens were not only physical, but spiritual, spaces of reflection, of whispering thoughts. Night in the gardeners. Night fell, gardens changed yet remained calm. Lanterns lit paths, fountains glowed faintly, flowers closed their petals, nightingales sang in trees, breezes carried fragrance. Families sat together, sipping tea, telling stories. Silence deepened, stars glimmered above. The garden slept, yet whispered still. Legacy of gardens. Ottoman gardens remain in Istanbul, Edirne, Bursa, Damascus. Tulips still bloom each spring. Fountains still flow, cypress still shade. Tourists walk today through palace grounds, hearing whispers of past. These gardens remind us that empire was not only conquest, but calm, not only domes but petals, not only thunder, but whispers. The Ottoman garden was not roar, it was whisper of fountain, murmur of tulip, rustle of leaves, and in that whisper lay peace of a world. The Ottoman world was not only palaces and mosques, gardens and caravanserai, but also workshops, small, steady spaces where hands shaped wood, clay, fabric, and metal into objects of both use and beauty. Crafts were the quiet strength of empire, sustaining daily life, adorning homes, supporting worship, and filling bazaars with color. Behind every carpet, every copper bowl, every embroidered garment stood patient hands, guiding threads, hammering softly, carving slowly. These were not labors of thunder, but whispers of patience. The spirit of craft in Ottoman towns. Workshops lined narrow streets. Each guild had its quarter, coppersmiths in one alley, carpenters in another, weavers in courtyards, calligraphers near mosques. The sounds blended into hum. Tapping of hammers, whir of wheels, rustle of fabric. Smoke rose from kilns, water splashed in troughs. Lamps glowed in corners. Work was steady, unhurried, measured. Picture a street in Istanbul. A coppersmith leans over anvil, hammer tapping rhythmically. Across lane, weaver guides shuttle through loom, threads crossing in patient dance. Nearby a potter turns wheel, clay rising beneath hands. Children run errands, apprentices sweep floors. Street filled with life, but not noise, just whispering. Song of craft, guilds and brotherhood. Scraffants gathered into guilds or esnaf, which guided trade, set standards, protected members. Guilds regulated prices, ensured fairness, supported widows and orphans, organized processions and festivals. Their meetings were calm, their decisions steady. Brotherhood bound members not only in work, but in care. Imagine a guild hall in Bursa. Wooden beams above, benches below. Masters sit, apprentices kneel, candles flicker. A leader speaks slowly, announcing rules. Others nod in silence. Papers signed, coins exchanged, bread shared. Outside, market bustles. Inside, guild breathes. With calm. Apprenticeship and patience. Crafts passed from master to apprentice through years of quiet training. A boy entered workshop at young age, sweeping floors, fetching water. Slowly he learned, holding hammer, guiding chisel, threading loom. Mistakes corrected gently, progress measured in patience. To become journeyman, then master, required not speed but endurance, humility, care. Picture apprentice in coppersmith's shop. He polishes bowl, his movements slow, cloth gliding in circles. Master watches, nods softly, correcting grip. Years ahead, but learning already in his hands. Workshop hums with calm rhythm, knowledge passed like whisper. Carpentry and woodwork, carpenters shaped doors, windows, furniture, mosquesmen bars, their chisels carved arabesques. Their saws cut steady lines, wood smelled rich, shavings curled. On floors, dust drifted in beams of light. Patterns emerged slowly, patience carving beauty into strength. Imagine carpenter's shop in Eddard. Sunlight streams through window, chisels glint. Master bends over panel, carving floral motif. Apprentice gathers shavings, smooth surface. Silence broken only by soft scrape of tool. Wood becomes prayer, labor becomes whisper. Weaving and textile weavers filled empire with cloth. On looms threads crossed patiently, patterns growing knot by knot, line by line. Carpets from Anatolia, silks from Bursa, cottons from Egypt, each born in rhythm of loom. Women embroidered garments with flowers, gold thread, pearls. Textiles carried beauty into homes, mosques. Bazaars. Picture loom in Kanya, thread stretched, shuttle passes back and forth, hands steady, eyes focused, pattern grows. Carpet glows with red and blue stars, and flowers blooming. Work is long but silence holds, each knot whisper of devotion. Metalwork and coppersmiths shake bowls, trays, lamps. Hammers tapped rhythmically, engraving lines, forming curves. Fire-heated metal, water hissed as it cooled. Surfaces polished until they glowed like mirrors. These objects filled homes, kitchens, mosques, each piece practical, yet beautiful, whispering of care. Imagine coppersmith in Aleppo. He sits before anvil, hammer striking softly. Sparks flash, bowl takes shape. He engraves designs, slow and careful spirals, flowers, verses. Finished piece glows not with noise, but with patience. Calligraphy and illumination. Calligraphy gave words beauty. Pens dipped in ink, letters curved upon paper with elegance. Each stroke measured, each pause deliberate. Illuminators added gold leaf, flowers, borders. Qurans copied. Poetry preserved, decrees adorned. These works were not rushed. They were crafted like prayer. Picture scribe in Istanbul library. Candle burns beside him, pen glides across page. His breath steady, his hand calm, letters form, flowing like water. Hours pass. Silence deepens, only sound, pen against paper, ceramics, and pottery. Potters shaped clay into bowls, jars, tiles. Wheels turned slowly, hands wet with water. Patterns painted, blue flowers, red tulips, green leaves. Glazes shone, kilns glowed, tiles cooled with brilliance. Iznik tiles adorned mosques, their flowers whispering in stone. Imagine kiln opening, heat rushes out, tiles revealed, colors glowing. Surfaces shining. Craftsmen lift carefully, eyes calm, smiles fade. Tiles placed upon walls, domes, fountains. Clay becomes whisper of eternity. Festivals and procession squills marched in festivals, each showing craft in quiet pride. Bakers carried bread, coppersmiths bowls, weavers cloth. Streets filled with banners, music, color. Children watched, eyes wide. Parents smiled softly. Guilds did not boast, they shared, reminding city of patience behind daily life. Legacy of crafts. Ottoman Empire left mosques and palaces, but also bowls, carpets, doors, books. These remain in museums, in homes, in bazaars. They carry whispers of hands that shaped them, patience that guided them, silence that endured. Crafts were not thunder, they were whispers of chisels. Hum of looms, tap of hammers, scratch of pens, and in those whispers lay strength of empire's soul. The Ottoman world, though remembered for its domes, bazaars, and caravan roads, also lived in sound and verse. Music and poetry were not thunderous spectacles, but gentle streams flowing through homes, courts, and gatherings. They carried the whispers of hearts, the murmur of devotion, the sighs of longing, the calm of reflection. A single pluck of a lute strain, the quiet recitation of a poem, could echo more deeply than shouts of armies. In this world, art was not roar but whisper, not storm but breeze, The quiet lute among the instruments of Ottoman music, the short-necked lute was beloved. Its strings hummed with warmth, its notes deep and steady, played in homes, palaces, coffeehouses. Its sound was never harsh but soft, like ripples across water. Musicians plucked strings with patience, melodies unfolding slowly, lingering in ear like perfume. Picture evening in Istanbul courtyard. Lanterns glow, family gathers, guest lifts lute, fingers move gently, strings hum, notes drift upward. Children lean against cushions, eyes heavy with sleep. Elders nod slowly, listening, with hearts more than ears. The lute whispers through night, carrying calm across silence. Neigh and whisper of breathy neigh, reed flute, carried sound of breath itself, its tone mournful, gentle, like wind through reeds. Mystics favored it, its voice echo of soul longing for divine. Played in lodges of Sufis, its melodies rose with chants, circling slowly, filling air with patience. The neigh was not for noise, but for stillness, for whisper of eternity. Imagine Sufi gathering in Konya. Candles flicker, dervishes seated in circle, a neigh player lifts flute, breath flows. Note rises long, soft, trembling, others chant quietly. Beads slide in hands, silence embraces sound, hearts calm, night deepens. Poetry in quiet voice. Poetry was soul of Ottoman world. Poets recited verses in courts, in taverns, in gardens. Their words spoke of love, loss, longing, faith, often whispered, often sung, always carried with care. Divans, collections of poetry, filled shelves. Names like Fuzulk, Nedkun remain, but countless others, whispered lines never written, carried only in memory. Picture a poet in Damascus garden. He holds cup of sherbet, gazes at fountain, recites lines softly. Friends listen, nod, reply with verses of their own. Nightingales sing above, lanterns glow, silence holds each word. Poetry mingles with air, gentle as breeze. Music in palaces and coffeehouse and Topkapi palace. Musicians played for sultans and courtiers, lutes, knees, timbres, drums blended in calm compositions. Music marked ceremonies, feasts, moments of reflection. In coffeehouses of Istanbul, simpler gatherings heard songs, travelers with lutes, storytellers with chants. Men sipped slowly, smoke curled, melodies filled air. Imagine coffeehouse by Bosphorus. Cushions spread, men gathered, musician strums. Lute voice rises in song, listeners quiet, eyes distant, hearts touched. Outside, waves lap softly. Inside, music carries night. Sufi whirl and chant among Sufis. Music and poetry joined in whirling dance. Dervishes turned slowly, skirts flowing, arms lifted. Knees played, drums pulsed softly. Chants rose in harmony. It was not frenzy but calm movement. Steady breath measured, hearts aligned. In this dance, music became prayer, poetry became devotion. Picture lodge in Konya at dusk. Lanterns circle hall, dervishes turn in silence. Neigh sings, drum whispers, chant fills air, movement slow, music steady, silence deeper than sound. Prayer becomes rhythm, rhythm becomes eternity. The poetic language of daily life. Poetry lived, not only in courts but in streets, markets, homes. Mothers sang lullabies, their words gentle poems. Children learned rhymes, their games filled with rhythm. Merchants quoted verses to sweeten bargains. Friends exchanged lines in conversation. Poetry was woven into speech, softening life, giving it melody. Legacy of song and verse. The Ottoman world left us mosques and palaces, but also songs and poems that endure. Lutes still hum in Turkey. Knees still breathe in lodges. Divans still read in libraries. Poetry still recited, songs still sung. Their voices are not loud but steady. Music and poetry of Ottoman world were not thunder. They were whispers of strings, sighs of breath, murmurs of verse, and in those whispers lay heart of empire. The Ottoman world was stitched together not only by its mosques and markets, not only by its caravan roads and palaces, but also by its humble gathering places, the coffeehouses. These small rooms, smoky and warm, offered more than drink. They offered a pause, a place where men gathered to murmur over dark cups, to listen to music, to share stories, to sit in silence together. Coffeehouses were not thunderous taverns, but quiet hearths of community, their voices blending like the aroma of roasted beans. The arrival of coffee came to the Ottoman world in the 16th century. Carried from Yemen across the Red Sea, brewed in Cairo, embraced in Istanbul, at first it was strange, its bitter taste surprising, yet soon it became essential, a dark drink poured slowly into small cups, its steam rising like whisper of thought. The Ottomans welcomed coffee not for its strength, but for its patience. It was a drink meant to be sipped, never rushed, always shared. Picture first cups poured in Istanbul, copper pot upon embers, water simmering, grounds stirring, foam rising, cups filled carefully. Men lift cups, taste slowly, nod quietly. Conversation begins not in shouts, but in murmurs. Coffee enters life as whisper, not as roar. The atmosphere of Ottoman coffeehouses were simple wooden benches along walls, cushions spread on floors, low tables for cups. Lamps hung from ceilings, their glow dim and golden. Smoke drifted from pipes, blending with steam of coffee. Walls echoed with murmurs, never loud, always steady. Imagine coffeehouse near Grand Bazaar. Merchants gather after day's trade, sitting in circle. Cups clink softly, smoke curls upward, lute strums in corner, voices rise, then fall, pauses long, silence shared. The coffeehouse is not about noise, it is about presence, about being together in calm conversations and murmurs conversions. In coffeehouses flowed like rivers, not rushing, but winding slowly. Men spoke of trade, of politics, of poetry, of philosophy. They recited verses, told tales, debated ideas, played chess. Words were not weapons, they were gifts, exchanged gently, received patiently. Between phrases, silence lingered, comfortable and deep. Picture a table in Damascus coffeehouse. Two men play chess, their moves slow, their voices low. Beside them, poet recites verse, his words soft, others nodding. A storyteller begins tale, his rhythm calm, listeners leaning close. Cups empty, refilled, steam rising again. Time stretches, yet no one rushes. Music in coffeehouse, music often accompanied coffee. A lute player strummed softly in corner, or nay breathed long notes. Songs drifted above murmurs, weaving sound with scent. Music did not dominate, it accompanied, like lamp or smoke, part of atmosphere, not spectacle. Imagine evening in Istanbul coffeehouse. Musician plucks strings, melody rises gently. Men sip slowly, eyes distant, hearts stirred. Song ends, silence follows, then murmurs return. Music becomes whisper in rhythm of night. Coffee and ritual. Coffee was prepared with patience. Beans roasted slowly, ground finely, simmered in copper sazvi. Sugar sometimes added, spices on occasion, but essence remained. Dark, strong, steady. To prepare coffee was ritual. To serve it an act of hospitality. Cups small, saucers delicate, foam treasured. To refuse cup was impolite. To accept meant sharing bond. Picture host pouring for guest. Pot lifted carefully, foam settle, cup placed with respect. Guest receives with smile, sips slowly. Conversation begins, gentle as steam itself. Coffee is not just drink, it is bridge of hearts, stories, and shadow plays. In some coffeehouses, entertainment added to murmurs. Storytellers spun tales of heroes and lovers, of history and humor. Shadow plays projected upon cloth screens, puppets moving, voices changing. Men laughed softly, clapped gently, delight subdued but deep. Coffeehouses became theaters of whispers, where imagination drifted with smoke, suspicion, and endurance. Times authorities worried about coffeehouses. They feared gatherings, the exchange of ideas. The murmurs of politics. Some sultans banned coffee briefly, but bans never lasted. The people loved their coffee too much. Coffeehouses endured, survived, thrived. Their whispers were stronger than decrees. Night in coffeehouse at night. Coffeehouses glowed warmly. Lamps flickered, smoke thickened, cups clinked, voices softened. Outside, streets grew dark. Winds swept alleys. Inside, warmth held, presents gathered. Some left, others lingered, hours stretching. When doors finally closed, silence returned, but scent of coffee lingered in air. Legacy of Ottoman coffeehouse cafes spread beyond empire, to Europe, to world. Vienna, London, Paris all learned murmur of coffee over cups. Yet their origin lay in Ottoman rooms, where men gathered slowly, shared silently, dreamed quietly. Coffeehouses were not thunder. They were whisper of beans, murmur of cups, sigh of smoke. And in that whisper lay the soul of community. The Ottoman world was not only shaped by prayer, markets, and journeys, but also by festivals, moments when life paused, when people gathered, when joy filled streets and courtyards. Yet even in celebration, the Ottoman rhythm remained soft. Crowds did not roar, they hummed. Music did not blare, it drifted. Children did not scream, they laughed gently. Festivals were not storms of chaos, but breezes of joy carrying community forward in harmony. The rhythm of the earth Ottoman calendar turned with both sacred and worldly occasions. Ramadan, with its fasts and feasts, Eid with its embraces and sweets, Mevlid, the celebration of the Prophet's birth, circumcision feasts, weddings, seasonal fairs, tulip festivals in spring all marked time with gentleness. Life was punctuated not with shouts, but with murmurs of gatherings, slow and steady. Picture Istanbul in spring. Tulips bloom across palace gardens, families stroll through lanes, vendors offer sherbet in glass cups, children chase one another softly, musicians strum lutes in shaded corners. Laughter rises, then fades, blending with breeze. Festival is not thunder, it is whisper of joy. Ramadan and Eid Ramadan nights glowed with lanterns. After long fasts, families gathered for iftar dates, soup, bread, prayers, mosques lit with rows of lamps strung between minarets, words of light glowing against night sky. Streets filled with vendors selling sweets, baklava, lokma, halva, steam rising, scents drifting. Neighbors visited one another, cups of coffee shared, conversations soft-eyed mornings. Mosques overflowed, prayers rose like waves, then silence deepened, families embraced, children received gifts, coins, sweets, visits made, homes filled with guests, laughter gentle, hospitality warm. Eid was joy, but joy measured in patience, gratitude, calm. Weddings and circumcision feasts. Weddings brought communities together. Processions moved through streets, brides adorned with embroidery. Grooms welcomed with songs, musicians played, dancers turned, food served in abundance. Yet tone remained modest, joy expressed in sharing, in blessing, in quiet pride. Circumcision feasts for boys celebrated passage into community, marked by gifts, meals, and prayers. Picture Edirne courtyard. Guests gather, tables laden with rice pilaf, roasted lamb, fruit. Musicians play softly, children run, elders bless. Groom and bride. No frenzy, no shouts, only joy unfolding like gentle melody. Tulip festivals in spring. Tulips filled Ottoman gardens. Their petals swayed in breezes, their colors painted earth. Festivals celebrated their bloom, families picnicked, poets recited verses, musicians strummed. Sherbets cooled hands, roasted nuts warmed evenings. Tulip was symbol of beauty, patience, balance. And its festivals were whispers of delight. Imagine Istanbul tulip garden at dusk. Lanterns glow, tulips shimmer. Families sit on blankets. A poet recites, listeners smile softly. Music plays, children laugh, night descends slowly. The tulip's whisper carries into air, memory etched, fairs and market seasonal fairs added to joy. Merchants arrived, stalls expanded, goods displayed, textiles, spices, toys. Jugglers entertained, storytellers recited, puppet shows amused, crowds gathered, murmurs blending, coins exchanged, laughter low. Fairs were markets of joy, their hum steady, their pace slow. Picture Anatolian town fair. Wooden stalls lined square. Children clutch toys, mothers purchase cloth, men sip sherbet. Musicians wander, playing lutes, jugglers toss balls. Evening falls, lamps lit, hum continues. Fair ends with whispers of joy. Music and processions. Festives brought music to streets. Drums pulsed softly, flutes whistled, lutes strummed. Processions moved slowly. Guilds carrying symbols of craft. Children in bright garments, elders in robes. Crowds lined paths, clapping gently, voices blending in chants. It was spectacle, but spectacle of calm. Joy at night. At night, festivals glowed warmly. Lanterns lit streets, mosques gleamed with lights. Music continued, laughter echoed. Families strolled beneath stars, children fell asleep in parents' arms, food stalls simmered. Poets recited last verses. Night held calm, joy lingered. Legacy of Ottoman festivals. Ottoman Empire left us monuments, but also memories of gatherings. Festivals reminded people of unity, of patience, of joy measured in whispers. Today, tulip festivals still bloom in Istanbul. Ramadan still fills mosques with light. Families still share bread and sweets. The legacy endures not in thunder, but in calm joy. Festivals were not storms. They were breezes of delight, whispers of laughter, hums of life. And in those whispers lay strength of community. The Ottoman world did not live only on land. Its empire stretched across seas, and water carried its lifeblood as much as caravans and roads. Harbors filled with ships, sails swayed in breezes. Waves lapped steadily against stone quays. The sea was not only a path of war and trade, it was also a place of calm, where silence rested between tides, where ships seemed to sleep upon waves, where harbors whispered with presence of journeys. Harbors at dawn, Ottoman harbors stirred. Quietly, lamps still glowed faintly, gulls circled above, fishermen untied boats. The sea stretched pale, reflecting sky. Merchants arrived slowly, carts creaking, goods unloaded patiently. Sailors climbed rigging, their movements steady, ropes creaking, sails folding or rising. The harbor was alive, but not noisy, just murmurs of trade, whispers of tide. Picture Galata Harbor in Istanbul. Ships lined along Bosphorus, their masts like forest of poles. Small boats weave between, carrying passengers. A fisherman casts net. Water splashing softly. On quay, men carry sacks of grain, their footsteps echoing on stone. Dawn light glimmers upon waves, silence blending with motion. Ships of trade and travel. Ottoman fleet included war galleys, merchant ships, ferries, yet most often harbors, filled with merchant vessels carrying grain from Egypt, spices from Arabia, timber from Balkans, textiles from Anatolia. Ships moved slowly, sails filled, hulls creaking. Voyages lasted weeks, sometimes months, guided by stars, carried by wind. Life on ships was steady rhythm, ropes tightened, sails trimmed. Meals cooked, prayers whispered. Imagine merchant vessel upon Aegean. Crew sits quietly on deck at dusk, watching sun sink. A man mends sail, another stirs pot. Captain studies stars. Sea calm, waves murmuring. Ship moves steadily, silence deep as sky. Fishermen and daily life along coasts. Fishermen formed heartbeat of sea, their boats small, nets simple, labor constant. Each morning, they set out, each evening, returned with catch. Nets cast, hauled, spread, voices low, hands skilled, rhythm unchanged for centuries. Fish sold in markets, grilled upon coals, shared in homes. Sea gave life quietly, steadily. Picture Black Sea village. Boats return at dusk, gulls follow waves. Lap, men unload baskets, women clean fish, children run along shore. Lanterns lit, fires glow, families gather. Sound of waves steady, silence holding joy. Naval strength and quiet power of Ottomans commanded seas with fleets, yet even naval power had rhythm of patience. Shipyards worked with hum of hammers. Sails stitched, ropes coiled. Admirals planned in silence, maps spread, stars studied. Fleets moved in formation, not rushing but gliding, their presence whisper of power. The sea as reflection for many. Sea was more than trade or power, it was place of reflection. Scholars traveled by ship, writing verses upon deck. Pilgrims crossed waves, praying softly, gazing at horizon. Merchants leaned on rails, thinking of families left behind. Sea's vastness invited silence, its endlessness mirrored eternity. Imagine Sufi mystic aboard ship. He stands at prow, wind in robe, eyes closed, waves crash softly, stars above endless. He whispers prayer, heart steady, mind calm. Sea becomes nearer of soul, waves whispers of divine. Harbors at night, harbors glowed faintly, lamps lit, piers, lanterns swayed on ships, sailors rested, hammocks creaking, voices low. Waves slapped stone, ropes groaned, gulls slept, silence deepened, broken only by water's murmur. Harbors dreamed of voyages past, journeys to come. Picture Alexandria harbor, moonlight upon sea. Ships dark silhouettes, a sailor strums lute. Softly, others hum along. Smoke rises from galley, soup simmering. Night calm, sea endless. Harbor breathing gently. Legacy of the sea. Ottoman Empire's heart beat also upon water. Harbors held ships like cradles. Seas carried trade and people. Coasts thrived with fish and life. Today, Bosphorus still glimmers with ferries. Aegean still dotted with sails. Harbors still hung with whispers. The sea remained steady, calm, eternal. The Ottoman sea was not storm. It was whisper of waves, sigh of sails, murmur of harbors. And in those whispers lay empire's entrance. The Ottoman Empire, vast in land and rich in faith, held within it one of the most profound journeys a believer could take. The pilgrimage. Each year, countless men and women set out toward Mecca. Their steps guided not by haste, but by devotion. This journey, the Hajj, was not thunder of conquest nor spectacle of triumph. It was a whisper of prayer, a steady procession of souls moving slowly toward the sacred. The beginning of the journey pilgrim began with preparation. Families gathered supplies, cloth for garments, food for travel, letters of farewell. Neighbors offered blessings. Elders gave advice. Children clung quietly. Travelers left homes with slow steps, their hearts both heavy and light, heavy with distance, light with faith. Picture a village in Anatolia. A small group departs at dawn, horses saddled, camels loaded. Families walk beside them to edge of town, offering prayers, weeping softly. The road stretches long, but faith steadies steps. Silence holds more than words could say. Caravan routes pilgrimage. Routes stretched across empire. Caravans departed from Damascus, Cairo, Istanbul, roads lined with caravanserai fountains, guards. Thousands walked together, yet journey remained quiet, voices low, songs steady, prayers whispered, steps fell in rhythm, staffs tapping earth, bells of camels chinning. Imagine Damascus caravan at dusk, tents rise across plain, fires glow, pilgrims kneel in prayer, children sleep upon mats, elders sip water slowly, stars blaze above, silence deepens, faith fills night, no clamor, only murmur of devotion. The Damascus caravan, only of the largest and most famous pilgrim caravans, departed each year from Damascus. Its departure was ritual. Thousands gathered, banners raised, Quran recited, blessings spoken, yet even in its size, tone remained reverent, steady, a long road. Caravans stretched miles, camels laden with water, tents, gifts for Mecca, guards, rode slowly, imams recited, pilgrims followed. The Damascus caravan was river of faith flowing softly across desert. Cairo and Istanbul routes from Cairo. Another caravan moved, carrying pilgrims from Africa. Ships crossed Nile, joined desert. Roads merged with others. From Istanbul, sultans sometimes sponsored caravans, sending wealth, supplies, guards. Each step, whether from city or village, carried same whisper, intention of heart, prayer of soul. The sacred cities along the way, along routes, pilgrims paused in sacred cities. Medina, resting place of prophet, welcomed them with silence and reverence. Pilgrims entered softly, eyes lowered, prayers whispered, hearts trembling, streets filled with quiet devotion, mosques glowed with light. To reach Medina was to pause in eternity before continuing to Mecca. The arrival in Mecca after weeks, sometimes months, pilgrims entered Mecca. Kaaba rose before them, black cloth covering stone. Golden door gleaming, tears flowed silently, prayers rose steadily, hearts bowed. Circumambulation began, pilgrims moving slowly around sacred cube, steps steady, voices low, no shouts, no noise, just harmony of thousands whispering prayers together. Picture night in Mecca, Kaaba glowing in lamplight, pilgrims circling, their voices murmurs blending with silence of desert, stars above endless, faith below eternal. The moment was not thunder, it was whisper of hearts aligned. Rituals of patience, each ritual of pilgrimage carried calm rhythm. Standing in Arafat plain, pilgrims lifted hands, prayers rising like sighs. Casting stones at pillars, they moved with patience, voices low, sacrifices made, hair shorn, garments simple. Every act symbol, every step whisper of humility. The return home after pilgrimage, travelers returned slowly, families awaited, children ran to meet, neighbors gathered. Stories told, gifts shared, prayers repeated. Pilgrims carried not wealth, but peace, not trophies, but whispers of sacred. Their steps, their eyes, their silence changed. Imagine Anatolian village again. Pilgrims return, embraced, welcomed with feasts, lanterns glow. Bread shared, joy quiet but deep, whole community, blessed through their journey. Legacy of pilgrimage in Ottoman world. For Ottomans, pilgrimage was not only duty, but rhythm of empire. Roads maintained, wells built, caravanserai funded. Sultans saw it as both faith and responsibility. Millions walked those roads, their whispers forming chorus of centuries. Today, those roots still echo, Mecca still glows, pilgrims still walk. The Ottoman pilgrimage was not thunder of command, it was whisper of devotion, murmur of prayers, silence of hearts. And in that whisper lay strength of faith. The Ottoman world was a place of motion, ships sailing, caravans crossing, markets bustling, prayers rising. Yet even within this steady rhythm, there were places where time seemed to pause, the antique shops and markets of memory. These were stalls tucked away in bazaars, narrow rooms along cobbled streets, small corners where objects of the past waited quietly for new hands. Each item carried whispers of lives lived, of homes warmed, of journeys made. In these markets, silence was the strongest presence, an echo of centuries, folded into cloth, etched into metal, painted upon wood. The corners of bazaars within the great bazaars of Istanbul, Damascus, Cairo, Aleppo. There were sections less hurried than spice, stalls or fabric halls. These were places where merchants sold older things, carved chests, worn carpets, brass lamps, manuscripts with faded ink. Their customers did not rush. They lingered, eyes roaming shelves, fingers tracing surfaces, breath slow. Antique shops were not markets of noise, but of memory. Picture a side street of the Grand Bazaar. The main corridor hums with trade, but here silence lingers. A shop displays copper trays tarnished with age. Shelves of porcelain cracked slightly, stacks of books yellowed with time. A merchant sits calmly sipping tea, waiting. Customers enter softly, speaking in low tones. Each object whispers, each silence carries weight. Objects that endure. Every item in these shops carried history. A brass ewer polished countless times, its handle worn by hands long gone. A carpet faded, yet still showing tulips, stars, and vines, each knot tied by a patient weaver generations earlier. A manuscript with calligraphy, pages softened by touch. A mirror framed in wood, its surface clouded, reflecting faces of centuries. Imagine lifting ceramic bowl in Aleppo shop, its glaze cracked, colors muted, yet beauty remains. The bowl has passed through kitchens, homes, journeys, its silence heavier than words, its presence deeper than value. It carries memory, patiently, quietly. The silence of books among antiques, books spoke most softly. Qurans copied by hand, poetry written with love. Chronicles of rulers, collections of tales, pages, yellowed, bindings loose. ink fading but each still alive. To touch such a book was to hear whispers of scribe, breath of reader, silence of centuries. Picture scholar in Cairo market. He opens manuscript gently, pages turning with sigh, calligraphy flows. Illumination glimmers faintly. He smiles softly, not at price, but at presence. In his hands, book speaks not loudly, but as murmur, eternal and calm. Traders of memory, antique merchants were guardians of whispers. They did not shout, did not rush. They sat in doorways, sipping coffee, answering softly. They knew stories of objects, but told them slowly, sometimes only a fast. They understood that value lay not in glitter but in silence carried. Imagine Damascus trader, he lifts brass lamp, explains at once lit caravanserai. His voice low measured, customer listens, eyes tracing patterns, sell made not in hurry but in patience. Object passes gently, memory continues. Shoppers of stillness, those who entered antique shops, did so with reverence. They did not seek bargains, but connection. A family might purchase chest for home, carrying past into present. A scholar might acquire manuscript, preserving memory of words. A traveler might buy small token, reminder of place visited. All moved slowly, lingered long, breathed deeply. Markets as museums, antique stalls were museums without walls. Objects lay open, touched, lifted, examined. Each piece held fragment of history, yet remained part of daily life. People lived among their past, not locked away, but shared, traded, whispered. The bazaar itself became memory stones worn by footsteps, arches echoing voices, lamps glowing as they had for centuries. Night in antique markets at night, shutters closed, lamps extinguished, silence deepened. Objects waited patiently, trays stacked, carpets rolled, books shelved, streets empty, only echo of footsteps fading. Yet within wood and metal, ink and fabric, whispers endured. Night held them. Dawn would reveal them again. Picture Aleppo alley. At night, doors shut, moonlight on cobbles, silence deep. Inside, objects sleep, their memory quiet. Yet each waits to be touched again, to whisper again. Legacy of memory. Ottoman world left monuments vast, but also objects, small bowls, lamps, books, carpets that carried life's whispers. Today, they rest in museums and markets alike. Travelers still wander Istanbul's antique shops, fingers tracing brass, eyes reading faded ink. Memory lingers not in thunder, but in whisper of objects. The antique market was not roar. It was murmur of centuries, sigh of books, silence of brass. And in those whispers lay heart of memory. The Ottoman world was an empire of domes and markets, ships and caravanserai, gardens and coffeehouses. Yet hidden within its daily rhythm was another whisper of life, the care of the sick, the tending of wounds, the healing of bodies and spirits. Medicine was not thunder of conquest, but patience of hands, quiet voices of physicians, soft prayers of families. Healing was a whisper, steady and enduring. Hospitals of calm. Ottomans built hospitals, called dar chifa, houses of healing. These were not only for bodies but for spirits, not only for wealthy but for all. Their courtyards shaded by trees, fountains trickled in centers, wards opened onto gardens, patients lay upon cushions, windows opened to breezes, birds singing nearby. Healing came not from noise, but from calm. Picture hospital in Edirne, a fountain, murmurs in courtyard, water cooling air. Patients rest on beds, doctors move quietly, nurses bring bowls of broth. No clamor, no harshness, just rhythm of care, whisper of water, murmur of voices. The physicians, Ottoman physicians, studied both ancient texts and new discoveries. They read Galen, Avicenna, Hippocrates, but also observed, experimented, wrote. Their hands steady, their eyes calm, their voices measured. They prescribed herbs, diets, baths, rest. Sometimes surgery required, but most often, healing meant patience. Imagine physician in Bursa. He sits beside patient, hand on wrist, feeling pulse, his eyes close, listening to rhythm of life itself. He speaks slowly, prescribes herbs, instructs family. Patient breathes easier, silence deepens. Healing begins not in rush, but in attention. Herbs and remedies filled Ottoman medicine. Mint for stomach, rosewater for calm, honey for wounds, black cumin for strength. Spices doubled as remedies. Cinnamon warming, saffron soothing, ginger clearing. Apothecaries sold powders, syrups, oils, their shelves lined with jars. Each remedy whispered centuries of knowledge carried softly through generations. Picture apothecary in Aleppo. Wooden shelves crowded with jars, labels in elegant script. Merchant measures powder carefully, pours into small box, ties with string. He speaks gently, explaining use. Outside, market hums. Inside, silence of healing. Music and healing in some hospitals. Music itself was medicine. Musicians played lutes. Knees drummed softly, their tones thought to soothe hearts and minds. Patients listened, eyes closing, breath steadying. Melodies floated like incense, entering spirit, calming pain. Healing was not only herbs, but sound. Imagine ward and Eddern dark chifa. Patients recline upon cushions, lamps glowing faintly. Musicians sit nearby, playing slow melody. Notes rise, linger, fade. Patients sigh, sleep comes. Music whispers where medicine alone cannot. Baths and water was healer too. Hammams provided cleansing warmth, renewal. Patients bathed in warm pools, muscles eased, minds calmed. Fountains in hospitals gave steady rhythm, cooling fevers, refreshing spirits. Water whispered through healing, constant presence. Picture hammam at dawn. Steam rises, men sit quietly, pouring water slowly, voices low, silence heavy, bodies soothed. Outside, sun rises. Inside, calm reigns. The role of women played vital roles in healing. Midwives attending births, mothers preparing remedies, nurses tending sick. Their presence quiet, their strength enduring. In homes, they whispered prayers over children. Mixed herbs soothed fevers. In hospitals, they cared with patience, moving gently from bed to bed. Imagine mother in small Anatolian village. Her child, fevered, she lays cloth soaked in rose water upon brow, murmuring lullaby. She does not command, she whispers. Healing comes slowly but steadily. Prayer and faith. Healing was also prayer. Families whispered supplications. Imams recited verses. Quran read over sick. Faith did not replace medicine, but walked alongside. Spirit and body cared for together. Silence of prayer blending with touch of hands. Night in houses of healing. At night, hospitals quieted. Lamps dimmed, patients slept, doctors rested. Only fountain continued, water murmuring through courtyard. Nurses moved softly, adjusting blankets, bringing water. Silence thick, healing deepened. Night cradled patients, carrying them toward dawn. Legacy of Ottoman medicine. Ottoman world left us palaces, mosques, bazaars, but also hospitals, manuscripts, remedies. Some buildings still stand. Fountains still trickle, manuscripts still whisper. Their legacy not in thunder, but in calm endurance. Ottoman healing was not roar of command, it was whisper of hands, murmur of prayers, sigh of patience seized. And in that whisper lay strength of life itself. The Ottoman world stretched wide mountains and plains, deserts and forests, rivers and seas. Holding it together were not only palaces, mosques, bazaars, but also its roads and bridges. These were not thunderous highways, not iron spans of clamor, but quiet paths, stone laid patiently, arches rising gently across rivers. Through them, caravans moved, pilgrims walked, messengers rode. Roads and bridges whispered connection, binding empire in steady silence. The rhythm of roads, Ottoman roads, followed ancient paths, Roman highways, Byzantine tracks, caravan trails. They wound through Anatolia, across Balkans, into Arabia. Some paved with stone, others packed earth, all worn smooth by footsteps, hose, wheels along them. Milestones stood, fountains flowed, caravanserai welcomed. Roads were arteries of empire. Yet they did not roar. They breathed with rhythm of footsteps, clop of hooves, Creak of carts. Picture Anatolian plain at sunrise. Road stretches across horizon, dust glowing in dawn light. Caravan of camels moves slowly, bells chiming. A rider urges horse gently. Cart follows, wheels turning steady. No hurry. No noise, just quiet procession along endless path. Bridges as arches of calm bridges marked rivers and valleys. Built of stone, arches curved gracefully. Sinan and other architects designed them with strength and elegance, solid yet serene. Water flowed beneath, reflecting arches. Travelers paused, leaning on parapets, watching currents. Bridges were not merely passage, they were moments of pause. Whispers above rivers. Imagine bridge in Bosnia. Arches rise above Minarets for river, stone glowing in sunlight. Shepherd crosses with flock, footsteps echo softly. A child leans over edge, watching water swirl. Beneath, river murmurs. Above, silence lingers. Bridge is both path and presence. Caravans along roads. Caravans moved like rivers of life. Merchants led camels laden with goods, silk, spices, grain. Pilgrims walked with staffs, whispering prayers. Soldiers rode slowly, guarding paths. Messengers galloped with letters, dust rising. Yet all moved in rhythm, not chaos. Roads carried them patiently, step by step, mile by mile. Picture caravan on Balkan road. Horses clop upon stone, wagons creak. Children ride donkeys. Traders speak softly, women sing lullabies, men recite verses. Road hums with life, steady, calm. The bridges of Sinan, great architect, built not only mosques but bridges. His arches spanned rivers, blending strength with elegance. Each stone placed with patience, each line measured. Bridges of Buyakekmas, Sakalo Mehmed Pai in Bosnia, Uzun Kapru and Thrasol stand as whispers of endurance. Picture Sakalo Bridge, long spent across Bosnian river, arches repeating like prayer. Travelers cross slowly, pausing to gaze. River below, murmurs. Bridge above, whispers. Centuries pass. Stones remain, silence endures. Resting along the way, roads lined with fountains and caravanserai. Travelers pause to drink, to rest, to pray. Sheet of plane trees cooled. Benches welcomed. Fountains trickled. Travelers lifted cups. Animals drank. Caravanserai offered courtyards, food, mats for sleep. Roads were not only for motion but for rest. Imagine fountain by Anatolian road. A traveler bends, fills jug, sips slowly. His horse drinks beside. Children laugh. Water splashes. Breeze rustles leaves. Silence settles again. Night on the road sat. Night, roads quieted. Caravans camped. Fires glowed. Stars blazed above. Bridges slept, their arches dark silhouettes. Rivers continued, their whispers louder in stillness. Travelers lay upon mats, dreams carrying them further. Roads rested, yet endured, waiting for dawn steps. Picture Thracian road at night. Campfires flicker, camels kneel, men pray, stars vast, silence deep, road endless, yet peace holds. Connection steady. Legacy of roads and bridges. The Ottoman world survives not only in domes and palaces, but in roads still traced, bridges still standing. Travelers still walk paths, cars cross arches built centuries ago. Stones hold footsteps of past, whispers of journeys long ended. Roads and bridges of Ottomans were not thunder. They were murmur of footsteps, sigh of wheels, whisper of arches, and in those whispers lay unity of empire. The Ottoman world is often remembered through its domes and bazaars, caravan roads and harbors. Yet within its heart lay another realm, the palaces. These were not only centers of rule and power, but also of silence, of rituals paced with patience, of gardens where whispers lingered longer than commands. Palaces were built with stone and tile, but their life pulsed softly. Footsteps along carpets, murmurs of servants, fountains trickling, tulips swaying behind gilded gates. Life was not thunder, it was a whisper wrapped in grandeur. The shape of Ottoman palaces followed traditions of both East and West, from Byzantine halls, from Persian courts, from Central Asian tents. They drew inspiration. Yet their spirit was uniquely Ottoman, inward-focused, layered, unfolding slowly like story. Gates opened into courtyards, courtyards into gardens, chambers into hidden rooms. Each space whispered a different presence, public audiences, private councils, quiet families. Picture Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. Its gates tall and solemn, but beyond them, courtyards stretch, shaded by plane trees, cooled by fountains. Domes rise softly. Tiles glow, gardens bloom. It is not fortress of thunder, but labyrinth of whispers. Silent halls within palaces, halls stretched long, their walls lined with tiles of Iznik blue, their ceilings painted with stars and vines. Chandeliers hung with glass lamps, glowing faintly. Footsteps of courtiers echoed softly, robes brushed stone, doors opened quietly. Halls did not resound with clamor, they breathed calm, carrying presence of those who passed. Imagine Divan chamber in Topkapi. Viziers sit in silence. Sultan enters, robes flowing, he speaks little, gestures steady, decisions made not in noise but in quiet authority. Scribes bend, pens scratching, silence steady. Whispering gardens, palace gardens were sanctuaries of calm. Tulips bloomed in rows, roses scented air, fountains trickled, pavilions opened to breezes, parrots sang, peacocks walked. Sultans strolled slowly, concubines whispered, children played softly. Gardens balanced grandeur with gentleness, reminding rulers of paradise and patience. Picture spring in palace garden. Lanterns glow at dusk, tulips shimmer, musicians play. Lute softly in corner, sultan walks with child. Hand in hand, silence holds, beauty whispers. The harem's quiet life, harem, often misunderstood, was world of its own. Women lived, learned, ruled, raised children, their days filled with embroidery, reading, music, conversation. Tutors taught languages, poetry, calligraphy. Mothers guided sons who would be sultans. Life not of frenzy, but of rhythm, whispering through corridors. Imagine evening in harem chamber. Lamps glow, women sit on cushions, embroidering tulip patterns. One recites poem, others smile softly. A child plays with toy, mother watches with calm. Room filled not with intrigue, but with steady life. Rituals of the court life followed. Rituals, audiences held on carpets, gifts presented with bows, robes given as honors. Musicians played softly, coffee served slowly, sherbets cooled, nothing rushed. Each gesture carried weight. Silence between words spoke as loudly as speeches. Picture. Ambassador received in Topkapi, he bows, presents letters, gifts. Sultan replies with few words, viziers nod. Ceremony unfolds like measured breath, calm and dignified. Kitchens and banquets, palace kitchens fed thousands daily. Cauldrons simmered, bakers baked, sherbets chilled, yet even feasts were patient. Tables laid with rice pilafs, roasted meats, fruits, sweets. Courtiers ate slowly, sipping coffee, listening to music. Banquets were not storms, but steady tides of flavor and conversation. Night in Poaches at night, palaces glowed softly. Lamps lit halls, fountains murmured. Nightingales sang in gardens. Sultans prayed in chambers. Families gathered in courtyards. Servants walked quietly. Beyond walls, cities slept. Within, silence deeper still. Picture Topkapi under stars, domes. Shimmer in moonlight, Bosphorus glows faintly beyond. Inside, only sound. Water trickling, pen scratching, breath of sleepers. Palace itself sleeps, whispering through stones. Legacy of Palace yesterday, Topkapi still stands, its courtyards open, its dials glowing. Visitors walk halls, hearing faint echoes of past. Other palaces, Dolmabach, Edirne, Bursa remain, each carrying whispers. They remind us that empire's heart was not only conquest, but calm, not only command, but patience. Ottoman palaces were not thunder. They were whispers of halls, sighs of fountains, murmurs of tulips, and in those whispers lay grace of empire. Asterisk. The Ottoman world was woven not only from stones and roads, markets and palaces, but also from words. Stories carried history, faith, humor, wisdom, and dreams. They were told not with thunder of stage, but with murmur of voices in lantern-lit rooms, in coffeehouses, in courtyards. Storytellers, called metas, sat among people, their voices rising and falling like gentle tide. They did not need paper, nor music, nor applause. They needed only presence of listeners, patience of time, glow of lamp. Their art was whisper, not shout, memory, not spectacle. The storyteller's presence metas carried no grand costume. A cane in hand, sometimes a turban adjusted for effect, a scarf or book for gesture. They sat upon cushion, lamp beside, eyes watching listeners. Their voice soft, measured, shifting tone for characters. Pausing often, listeners leaned forward, cups of coffee in hand, smoke drifting above, silence thick. In that silence, words grew strong. Picture Istanbul coffeehouse. Men sit cross-legged on cushions, cups steaming. A meta begins tale of hero, his voice low, hand tapping cane. Listeners smile faintly, nod, sip slowly. Room glows golden, story flows. Tales of heroes and lovers, stories told of prophets and kings, of heroes and saints, of lovers and fools. Some were drawn from Quran and tradition, others from Persian epics, Arab adventures, Turkish folk tales. Some spoke of Alexander the Great, others of Nasreddin Hoja with his humor. Some carried moral lessons, others laughter, others dreams. All shared softly, words flowing like water. Imagine Damascus courtyard. A meta recites story of Majin and Layla, voices shifting between longing and sorrow. Women listen from balconies, children lean from stairs, men sip sherbet, silence grows deep. Only fountain trickles, story weaves itself into night, tender and eternal. Coffeehouses and coffeehouses were homes of stories. Lamps hung low, smoke curled, lute strummed softly. A meta began with prayer, then tale unfolded slowly. Between episodes, he paused, sipped coffee, smiled at listeners. Audience responded not with shouts, but with murmurs, nods, quiet laughter. Stories stretched for nights, each evening adding new chapter. Picture Aleppo coffeehouse. Men gather, nightly, waiting for tale's next turn. Meta lifts hand, continues. Listeners hush, cups lowered, hours pass, no one leaves. Story becomes life itself. Lanterns flicker, voices fade. Storytellers, as teachers, stories were also teachers. They carried wisdom, faith, history. Through humor, morals revealed. Through heroes, courage taught. Through lovers, patience shown. Children learned values, adults reflected. Meta was not only entertainer, but guide, shaping minds gently. Imagine Eddern Market Square. Children sit in circle. Meta tells tale of just ruler. His voice calm, lesson clear. Kindness stronger than cruelty, patience greater than haste. Children listen, eyes wide. Lesson settles quietly in hearts. Shadow place beside live storytellers. Shadow plays brought tales to life. Screens stretched, lamps glowed, puppets cut from leather move, voices shifted, scenes played. Characters like Kargs and Hasavit joked, argued, taught lessons. Audiences laughed softly, clapped gently, children giggled. Shadow play was story. In silhouette, whisper in light. Picture lantern-lit room. Screen glows, puppets dance, voices shift, men chuckle. Children lean forward, women smile. Play ends, silence lingers, joy steady. Stories of faith and wonder, stories often carried echoes of faith, miracles of saints, journeys of prophets, parables of devotion. They were told with reverence, pauses long, voices steady. Listeners bowed heads, murmured prayers. In these stories, hearts lifted, souls calmed. Night and silence each night, stories deepened. Lamps burned low, listeners sleepy. Meta's voice softer, words carried listeners into dreams. Heroes riding across plains, lovers whispering in gardens, fools stumbling with laughter. As tale ended, silence fell, audience sighed. Story lingered in night, whisper in memory. Legacy of storytellers. Ottoman world left us mosques, palaces, markets, but also stories. Some written, some remembered, many lost, yet their echoes endure. Coffeehouses still recall Meta's shadow, plays still performed, tales still told. Storytelling was not thunder. It was murmur of voice, glow of lamp, silence of listeners, and in that murmur lay heart of community. Asterisk. The Ottoman world moved with life, markets, mosques, streets full of voices, but also lived beside silence, in cities and towns, in gardens and hills. Cemeteries spread gently, not hidden, but woven into daily path. Their stones stood not in fear, but in quiet remembrance. Cypress trees swayed above, whispering softly. Birds sang at dawn, leaves rustled at dusk. Among these stones lay memory of generations, written in calligraphy, carved with care. Cemeteries as part of the city. In the Ottoman world, cemeteries were not hidden behind walls. They lay beside roads, near mosques, within gardens. People passed them daily, pausing in thought, offering prayer. Children played nearby, merchants walked past, elders sat in shade. Death was not absence, but presence in silence. Imagine Istanbul Street. Beside mosque rises small cemetery. Tall cypress trees stand watch, stones lean gently. Calligraphy glows in sunlight, pigeons coo. A man pauses, whispers prayer, walks on. Life flows beside memory. The stones and their stories, each gravestone told story. Some bore turban atop, showing men of rank. Some had fez, some plain. Women's stones carved with flowers, delicate designs. Children's graves marked with tiny domes. Calligraphy wound in graceful lines, telling name, lineage, sometimes poem. Stones spoke softly of scholar, merchant, soldier, mother. They did not shout, they whispered gently in stone. Picture Eddern Garden Cemetery. Stones shaded by plane trees, inscriptions curve like vines. Sunlight dapples, a stone reads, "He was kind to all." Patient in faith, another reads, "Her hands fed poor, her heart knew peace." Cypress trees, unsilenced cypress trees, stood tall above graves, slender, dark, evergreen. They pointed heavenward. In Ottoman poetry, cypress symbolized eternity, grace, memory. Their roots held soil, their branches whispered. Birds nested within, wind sighed through. Imagine Bursa hillside, rows of cypress sway, graves beneath. Dawn breaks, birds sing, mist curls, silence deep yet soft. The cypress watches centuries pass, never bending, always present. Cemeteries of sultans and queens, viziers and saints rested in grand tombs. Mausoleums with domes, tiles, calligraphy, gardens around. Visitors entered softly, removed shoes, prayed. Tombs glowed in lantern light, carpets muffled steps. Within, sarcophagi draped in cloth. Quran recited, silence deep, reverence strong. Picture Suleimani Mosque complex. Behind mosque, garden holds tomb of Suleiman the Magnificent. Dome rises above, tiles shine blue, cypress shade puffs. Visitors whisper prayers, stand long. Tomb holds power, yet hums softly. Saints and pilgrims in cemeteries held saints, men of learning, devotion, miracles. Their tombs visited by pilgrims, candles lit, water poured, cloth tied to trees. Women prayed for children, men for peace, travelers for safe return. Pilgrims moved softly, prayers murmured, silence deep. Imagine Konya Garden, tomb of saints shaded by roses, cypress. Women kneel, hands lifted, tears quiet, birds sing. Breeze moves, tomb glows in morning light, peace steady. Death as part of life, fine Ottoman thought. Death was not end, but return. Life and death walk side by side. Cemeteries reminded gentle life precious. Time short, kindness lasting. Children learned early to greet graves, offer prayers, remember ancestors. Death taught humility, patience, reflection. Picture Damascus courtyard. A child holds father's hand, walking through graves. Father explains inscriptions. Child listens. Silence holds lessons. Stones teach softly. Funeral processions. Funerals move slowly, quietly. Body wrapped in cloth, carried on bier. Men walked, prayers murmured. Women waited at home, candles burned, body lowered gently, soil placed softly. Imam prayed, people wept quietly. After burial, tea poured, memories shared, grief calmed steady. Surrounded by faith, imagine small Anatolian village. Funeral winds through narrow lane, men carry bier, chant softly. Women stand at gate, hands folded, burial under cypress, wind sighs. Afterward tea served, neighbors sit, silence full. Cemeteries in poetry, Ottoman poets wrote often of death, graves, silence. They saw beauty in cypress, grace in stone, peace in memory. Poems spoke not in fear, but in stillness. Death was garden of reflection, stone of humility, tree of eternity. A verse might read, beneath the cypress shade I rest, where silence holds the kindest guest. No crown remains, no sword, no flame, only a whisper of a name. Night in the cemetery at night, cemeteries glowed in moonlight. Cypress cast long shadows, stones glimmered faintly, wind moved leaves, owls called softly. In that stillness, one felt not fear, but calm. Memory lingered like mist, peace like dew. Picture Sarajevo hillside. Moon rises above cypress, stone silver. City sleeps below, cemetery breathes softly. Time stands still, silence eternal. Legacy of stone study. Many Ottoman cemeteries still stand. Some well kept, others forgotten, stones worn, calligraphy fading, yet cypress still sway. Birds still sing, silence still deep. They remain not as symbols of loss, but of memory, patience, continuity. They teach gentler life passes, kindness remains. Asterisk. The Ottoman Empire stretched across mountains and deserts, forests and plains, yet at its heart water flowed quietly. Rivers wound through cities, aqueducts carried streams. Fountains sang in courtyards, and the Bosphorus itself shimmered as a silver thread. Water was not only necessity, but presence soft, eternal, whispering through daily life. It cooled, it nourished, it soothed. The waterways of the empire were not roaring floods. They were calm currents, silent gifts, voices of patience. Rivers. As gentle vines rivers shaped Ottoman lands, the Danube flowed through Balkans, Black Sea feeding into it, Tigris and Euphrates wound through Mesopotamia, now carried Egypt's life. Along their banks rose towns, markets, mosques. Boats drifted slowly, nets cast, water wheels turned steadily. Rivers did not rush, they carried quietly, like veins sustaining empire's body. Picture Danube at dawn, mist rises, fishermen cast nets, water ripples softly. A barge moves downstream, cargo of grain. Children play on banks, their laughter blending with river's murmur. Life unfolds, calm measured. The Bosphorus, imperial strait at the center stood Bosphorus, narrow strait, dividing and uniting empire. Its waters shimmered with ferries, warships, fishing boats. Palaces lined its shores, mosques rose above. Each morning, sunlight glowed upon waves, seagulls circled, ferries crossed steadily. Bosphorus whispered of empire's breadth joining. Black Sea with Mediterranean, east with west. Imagine evening by Bosphorus. Lanterns glow along shoreline, fishermen haul nets, ferry crosses slowly, water glimmers silver, city lights reflect. Families sit upon banks, sipping coffee, watching. Straight breeze calmly, eternal and gentle. Aqueducts and fountains, water carried through aqueducts into cities. Stone arches spanned valleys. Channels led to fountains, cisterns, baths. Aqueducts built with patience, whispering strength of engineers. Fountains rose in courtyards of mosques, in market squares, beside roads. Travelers paused, cups filled, prayers offered. Water gave not only life but serenity, each trickle song of peace. Picture fountain in Istanbul mosque courtyard. Children gather, splashing, women fill jars, old man washes hands before prayer. Water flows steadily, cool and calm, echoing through arches. Hammams and Renawal hams, public baths, stood at heart of Ottoman towns. Within, water steamed, flowed, refreshed. Men and women gathered separately, pouring bowls over shoulders, sitting in warmth, resting in silence. Conversations murmured, backs scrubbed, fatigue lifted. Hammam was not noise. But whisper of steam, sigh of water, pause of life. Imagine Hammam in Damascus. Marble floors glisten. Domed ceiling dotted with small windows, beams of light shining. On steam, water poured gently, laughter low, voices soft. Renewal unfolds slowly, body eased. Spirit soothed. Water in gardens in Ottoman gardens, fountains, and pools neared sky. Water trickled between tulips, shimmered beneath cypress. Cooled pavilions, birds drank, children splashed, poets wrote verses. Without water, garden incomplete, with it, garden sang. Picture top copy garden, fountain glimmers at center, petals floating. Poets sit beneath trees scribbling verses. Children chase each other, mothers sip sherbet. Breeze moves, water sparkles softly, echo of paradise. Wells and roadside springs along roads. Fountains and wells provided water for travelers. Carved in stone, shaded by trees, they welcomed caravans, pilgrims, merchants. Animals drank, men prayed, children laughed. Springs whispered hospitality, eternal presence. Imagine Anatolian roadside. Caravan halts by spring, camels kneel, water. Drawn in copper bowls, pilgrims sip slowly, prayers murmured, fountain trickles, silence deep. Road continues, but pause remains. The Nile and Egypt's life-fine Egypt now flowed as eternal gift. Its floods nourished fields, its waters fed markets, its boats carried grain to empire. Farmers watched patiently, measuring floods, planting. With rhythm, now whispered life, steady and endless. Picture now village. Boats drift, fields green, children swim, women wash clothes on shore. Sunset glows red, river reflects, life calm, timeless, eternal. The whispers of water, at night, water deepened. Bosphorus shimmered under moonlight, Danube reflected. Stars, fountains glowed in lamplight, hammams steamed faintly. The sound of water carried through silence, splash, trickle, sigh. It lulled cities to sleep, murmured dreams, guarded hearts. Picture Sarajevo fountain at night. Courtyard and empty, lantern flickers, water trickles steadily, stars above endless, silence deep, fountain whispers eternity into stone. Legacy of Ottoman water waste. Ottoman world survives in mosques, palaces, bazaars, but also in water. Aqueducts still stand, fountains still flow, Bosphorus still glimmers, hammams still steam, rivers still murmur. Now still feeds, water endures as it always has, soft, eternal whispering. Ottoman waterways were not floods. They were whispers of rivers, sighs of fountains, murmurs of straits. And in those whispers lay heart of empire. Asterisk,